We're here for another episode of the Down the Shore podcast. I'm Kevin Quinn. I'm here with Zach Rufo, Nick Sicoli. Today we have special guest Matt Keenan, professional surfer and business leader. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's just kind of get right into it. Maybe talk about your background, professional athlete, and then kind of we'll transition, see where this conversation goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the age-old story. You live at the beach, you start boogie boarding with your parents, they take you to the beach, it just becomes like your babysitter, your obsession, your life. It just consumes you. And so for me, it's no different. I just ended up at the beach and surfing, and next thing you know, it was just all I wanted to do. And I can remember being 10 years old and getting my first surfboard. So I had an October birthday. For my 10th birthday, they bought me a surfboard, and I had to wait all the way till May because at that time, wetsuits were so bad. I just turned 50 years old, so date myself. Wetsuits were bad, and I remember like waiting, January, February, March, April. I'm like, May, it's warm outside. And I remember just jumping in the ocean. It was just like getting electrocuted. But I just loved it from that. I can still vividly remember the colors on the used board and just the feeling of being in love with something at a young age. And then it just never changed. And then local contests and, you surf with your friends and it just becomes a social thing. And it's how I met my friends and hanging out 37th Street in Ocean City and then transitioning to like walking down to Surfer Supplies every day. And then, being 12 and my parents being like, all right, we're going to drop you at 7th Street, on the boardwalk. Like that was like such a crazy thing. Going down there for OCSA, which was like the original surf, contest in the summer. And at 12, my life kind of changed dramatically because we did the local scene and then there was only one slot for nationals. And I was in first place and all I had to do was just come to the event for the day and touch the water, get a point, and I would win for the year overall points and get invited. Fate had a different story, a plan for me. My best friend and I were just like mortal enemies, but also like best friends. So me and Danny Margliano competing. We were just warming up. I ran myself over, ended up at the hospital with stitches, couldn't surf, finished second by 2 points. And all of a sudden I don't get an invite to nationals. I was beside myself. And I remember sitting in the car, just bawling, and my dad really not knowing what to say to me at the time, and now being a father, like I can't imagine what he would have felt because there was really nothing that he could say to me that would make me feel better. But he just was like, listen, it's just not our time. And he said, it's not our time. Mm-hmm. We're going to get our time. You're going to get your time. We are going to get another opportunity to do this. So that was kind of something that was really pivotal because, fast forward a month, I'm 12 years old and I look at my daughter now, she's 12. There is no way I would put her on a plane with a bunch of teenagers to go to California. So fate would have it. I got an alternate spot. Ed Town calls my dad. Hey, Joe, great news. There's an alternate spot. Matt can have it. We leave in 6 days, blah, blah, blah. And back then it's just, let's see, 86. And planes, phones, internet, like it's just kind of like such a different day now. Like, they just put me on a plane with a bunch of teenagers. Oh, we got them.
That's it.
Went to nationals.
There he goes.
And just was like a super crazy experience. We can spare like the Grom torture because it was just insane. But I ended up winning nationals at 12. And then what that pivotal thing did for me for life was it showed me, A, you never know what fate or life has in store for you. Mm-hmm. But B, just like, all of a sudden, expectations, pressure, like it was just a contest. It changed everything for me. And to be honest, it was a huge point in my life because I just didn't know what to do with it. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm cool. Oh, they're sponsors. And I just kind of really, at the time, was so psyched on it, but just was so oblivious to the outside things. So when I came home and it's like, hey, we want to talk to you about winning nationals. And we got, some interest. And to be honest, outside of that, I went into a pretty long slump after that. And that's kind of like where I guess the traits of like resilience and determination and, all the will to do things is kind of where my trait starts. So at that pivotal point at 12 is like kind of where the the surf and my business life, and I guess the traits that you take into your daily really started to come, to fruition.
Yeah, it sounds like there was like a competitive nature there without really even knowing, right? You're 12 years old without knowing that it's competitive. That's kind of happening at the same time where like the surf industry is exploding with like the Kelly Slater effect and, late 80s, early 90s. There's all this expectation because now there's all this potential notoriety, but also money that could potentially come with that. And maybe that wasn't the driving factor, but...
Well, so it's a little early for money. So it's funny that you say that. It was way, way before money. So, if you pinpoint that time, I was probably 5 years too early. And then it's funny because as you start to grow up and you mentor people, Rob Kelly came into my life. Like I saw him surfing as I was teaching surf lessons around 12 years old. And by 15, he was getting paid like more than me as a professional athlete. And it was just this drastic shift. So I'm 15 years older than Rob. But it was this thing that was like, I felt super accomplished in my career. There wasn't social media. Like you had to wait for magazines and do things. And people, it was like folklore. You were like, oh, you made the quarterfinals of the XL, it was 40 foot. Cool. Like, now, day and age, like someone rides a crazy wave, you'll see it, pretty much as soon as he kicks out.
Feed, yeah.
As soon as he kicks out. So it was a really cool time because you just didn't have the eyeballs of like the daily, but you had the pressure that I think competitive people put on themselves. And either you're a sink or swim person. My son is so competitive. My daughter is not. I didn't do anything different raising my 8-year-old or my 12-year-old. Just Madison is not competitive. Taj is like, his day is over. Like if you drink the coffee faster than he can drink his water, he's out. Like he's super competitive. So I feel like it's like, you talk about traits that people have or what you pass down, whether it's blue eyes or brown eyes. I think people in general are competitive or not. It's just what you do and how you apply that competitive. Either, you can learn tools, you can grow and develop skills, but there's certain things like you're either right-handed or you're left-handed. Yeah. Like, so I think that there's that innate thing that, being super competitive, like I will tell you, I am so competitive that, some of those things that transpired when I wasn't doing anything other than winning locally after that national title. So there was a gap between 12 and 18. I had a 6-year run where I could win anything locally, anything regionally, and then East Coast Championships, nationals. I was always like quarterfinals or an out. And I was so angry sometimes because I felt like the first one was so easy. And I loved it so much that it happened in a blink of an eye. And I didn't really worry about competing or winning. Like I loved to do it. And it was so fun. It happened. And then after that, I'm like, I was always chasing that high. Like I wanted to win so bad. I wanted to get better. I wanted to get more sponsors. I felt like I wanted to get more notoriety, but the more I tried, the less I really like, I'm not going to say didn't love it as much. I was getting frustrated. And I believe that like just anything, like whether it's a relationship or attention or a deal, something's going wrong. I just wasn't aware enough at that age to just like kind of just like woosah, let it go, let it develop. And then around 18, I just started to, I just started to find my way. But I remember being 14 and being told like, hey man, that last 2 years ago, that was luck. You're never going to be a pro surfer. You're never going to make this a career. And I was sitting at the pizza place right next to the surf shop. Hey, this guy's going to be better. This is going to happen. This. You may be a decent pro. You may make a quarterfinal here and there, but like this isn't going to be your life. And I remember being 14, thinking, I'm going to figure this out. And it took a few years, constantly grinding. But then, I broke through and won some more stuff and won a couple more national titles. And then by the time I was 20, I won a WQS and won a world tour event in Puerto Rico. Like it was kind of crazy. But the funny thing is that same trend happened again. I won a QS event at 20 years old and I never won another one. I had a 17-year professional career. I got 27 seconds. Dude, talk about like when in hindsight, and it's so cool now that I get to like work with people in business and talk to people who are maybe stuck in a thing. It's like resilience is such a real thing. And the ability to separate emotion from action and lean into strategy, whether that's an athlete, a business, anything you're doing, parenting, friendships, it's like, if you lean into the strategy, you're eventually going to get something out of it. It may not be exactly what you want, because that's when skill and challenge meets up. Everyone's got a skill set. Yeah. I can't go operate on another person right now, but if you cut your hand, I could probably patch it up.
Yeah.
So I'm not so it's that mentality of, is the challenge too great for your skill? And where do you kind of fall into that meter of emotions? Because emotions become, such a big part of our daily thing now, because everyone is so cognizant of it. And everyone is so willing to jump on you or at you. But if you can find people that are willing to support you and lift you up and build that deep relationship and have a connection, like that's the future of everything. Sports, business, family, life. And I think that that's kind of like what's been kind of cool lately is that, you're starting to see a little bit more, empathy for one another. Coming out of COVID, it was kind of just like everyone was isolated. Yeah. And coming back out, it got a little weird.
Everybody appreciates just person interaction more.
It was a good reset for people. I mean, I know it was devastating in some regards, but I think it shed a lot of light onto a lot of things in the world, And I think, like, to your point where you said, the connection and things, I mean, we're probably more connected now than we've ever been at any time in history to anything. And it's almost harder now to find those genuine connections because it's such an overstimulation. But I think on the flip side to that, there are being so connected with social media and the internet and so many different things out there, it helps show people that they're not alone in things. Like you lose this contest. There's another 12-year-old kid out there who just lost a basketball game or, something. And it's like, all right, I'm not the only one. I found this community of people here on Instagram or Facebook or wherever it may be. That's one of the things about the world we live in now, which I think is nice.
Yeah, it was interesting. You mentioned back late 80s, early 90s, you had to wait for a magazine to come out, right? And I can remember, we're almost the same age. I can remember in high school, maybe getting ready to go into high school, you'd get Surfer Mag. There'd be an East Coast section. And I remember seeing your name, truly, and being like, this guy's from Cape May County. How cool is that? And then there's all these other people that, you know of, Hobgoods and Kelly Slater and that whole crew. But every now and then your name would be in there, right? And it'd be amazing to be like, this guy's from Cape May County.
Yeah.
And you would have to wait to see that. So as a competitor, I don't know, maybe that was something that you like knew that you were people were going to see your name, right? So there's like that aspect of it.
I think then you'd hope it would get out.
Right, right. And maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. Now, and in the past 15 years, it's like, boom, immediately. So you could have done great or not done great. You're posting footage, you're posting content. There's going to be a mass of people that are seeing that content and like, wow, Matt's killing it. Meanwhile, it's like, maybe in your heart, you're not. It's like this superficial world that since COVID, I think people have kind of recognized that there's like a reality of social media and content. And then there's like the superficial and it's hard to sift through it sometimes.
Totally. And I think being a professional athlete, it's surfing is such a complex beast. And I say it's a beast because are your boards right? Do the waves come to you? Do you fall in that last turn? And it's all about you. So I think for me, a lot of the times it was pretty lonely because you couldn't just call your parent. Like I pretty much started traveling at, 15 full time, like a lot. Brazil with the national team at 15 and doing things. But by the time I was done school at 18, it's just like, boom, 27, 28, 20, just traveling, 240 days a year, which was amazing. And I have friendships that I built. And I think what I miss the most and what I took out of being a professional surfer was I was really dedicated. I was extremely competitive, and internally, I mean, God, I probably should have talked a lot more like, Dad, I'm just so lonely, or Mom, hey, I miss you guys more. I had built so much pressure up on myself because maybe just you weren't really as aware of, your emotions other than just like, God, I hate losing more than anything. But what surfing teaches you is there's only one winner, and you lose so much.
Oh yeah.
And I swear I had like an 8-year run that I would win all the way to the final and then lose like nonstop. So whether it's like missing out on the real money because the money's in winning and beating everyone, and it's like, or getting second. Oh, I beat that guy. It just like, it was this.
That's taxing on your mental health.
Yeah,
for sure.
it was super taxing, but I think, now that I look back on it, it was like, that was my path. Like my path was the network that I built out of it. Cause now, and I look at, and we joke a lot about things because I'm still very active in the industry. I can pretty much answer any question anyone asks me almost about anything in 2 texts. And it's because I've got this relationship of whether it's athletes or managers or car people, just all the people you've met over your life. And it's like, I mean, my sister asked me a question today. Hey, do you know anyone at New Balance? Oh, you know what? I think I do. Hold on. Shoot a text. Oh yeah, this guy. Oh, it's just
That's crazy.
And it's just, life is just all about the network that I built. And I think that when I look back, I was just so into the camaraderie of traveling with a bunch of people. And I have relationships that, the best man at my wedding is Mike Losness, who super famous surfer, but my also best friend was Randy Frank, because I had a life at home and I had a life on the road. So I had 2 best men at my wedding 17 years ago because I almost had 2 separate lives. My life on the road with, my best friend who was just one of the best surfers on the planet.
Yeah.
And I would just travel with him and just surf and stay at his house in California and do this. And then like, as soon as I come home, Randy, what's up? And just had, a separate life at home. And I think that but that network is really what I miss the most. And even now it's awesome with social media, whether you're talking to like Mickey Picon in France, or you're talking to Adriana de Souza in Brazil. It's just like all the people that you've met, you can talk to them all the time now. And it's just really cool. It's even funny, guys like Kobe Aberton, who's just was one of the original hellmen in surfing, right when Chopu became a thing and the gotcha, this guy charged so hard. I haven't seen him in maybe 25 years. And he's like, Keenzo, that's what we used to call you. Is that why you're Keenzo? And just, hey, mate, what's going on?
He just hit you up on social media one day?
Yeah, he just hits me up one time. Like, hey, I saw you like something. And you just connect with so many things. But it's like, you're instantly back in that vortex of like, oh my God, remembering Guadalupe. And it's just like, we just had
memory
so many
lane on
experiences.
every aspect.
It's always never the destination or the journey. It's always the company along the road.
The destination is in anything. It's a moving target. The journey is so much more fun. And I think, now that I'm starting to build businesses and being more involved in different layers of business, and then now just kind of my last 2 roles since leaving Nike were building brands, whether it was working at Rusty in a relaunch of, of a 90s brand, and then moving to Beneath 5 years ago, building a category in underwear and working with a brand that no one knew what that meant. And it's a product that nobody sees ever. We all could be wearing it, you wouldn't know. But it's wild, when I look at how quickly the brand went from 0 to getting there, and we're still just in our infancy, but Tom Brady wears our stuff, Justin Timberlake it's just really weird how underwear is kind of
it's taken off.
It's just been this weird thing because it's just
you wear it all day.
Yeah.
And if you have a good pair,
Yeah,
you know you have it.
it's like the
I think
last
that's maybe one thing that guys will stick with. At least I'm that way.
Yeah.
Oh, if it's comfy, I'm buying a couple pairs.
And we got into fabrics that aren't cotton, so you can
you don't have to. Well, you're
cool
wearing
prints and all
$200
that kind of
Lululemon
stuff.
pants. You can't be wearing underwear from Costco anymore. It's just you got to go comfort on comfort. But it's been really weird because I never thought, once I left Nike, that was such a pivotal, like that was my first real job.
What?
And I got.
I don't mean to interject. What did you do at Nike?
So I was Nike Action Sports.
Okay.
And I got to Nike through a surf lesson. I met a guy I was teaching his kids. We started talking about sneakers. Next thing you know, he's like on the West Coast sales director, footwear. He became a really good friend. He's one of my best friends. And it took 5 years to get in there, but like, that's what I worked on. He's like, hey, I need you to work on this, do this, do this, do this, do this. I'm going to get, and then he's like, hey, we're doing Nike 6.0, this action thing. We're going to need a guy in your zone, but it took 2 years to get hired. And I remember just, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, or fiance at the time, was just like, you got to figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a late bloomer. I was lucky to have a career that, took me till my, early 30s as a professional athlete.
Were you with Jason Kentworthy?
So those guys
there?
were all there doing all the photos and all that. But what
Okay.
I was doing was actually sales. Like I worked at 7th Street Surf Shop for 23 years.
'Cause
I was on the road.
I know Mike Sciarra used to
Yeah.
love you because Nike was huge down at Kona.
Yep. So I was your sales rep for Nike for a long time. So I did Nike SB and all that, but everything I know, everything I've experienced, everything I do in my life, I learned at the beach.
That's crazy.
Like literally, I can sit and do a keynote, and it's the master class in success. Everything I know, I learned at the beach. And if you look at your experiences, and I was lucky enough to like not have to go to school. I'm like a University of Life guy. If you can manage, and you'll know, if you can manage a summer business and talk to that many people and manage teenagers from I was 17 till I was 32, doing that long stretch of if you can do that, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Definitely. 4 stores running, surf lessons. I used to work, if I was not on the road traveling and competing, I got to the surf shop at 7:45, stopped teaching lessons at 8:00. And then I would close those doors at 11:45 at night. I did that 6 days a week.
Just grinding.
For 17 years, grinding. And then that would fuel my passion. Yeah. Because that's how I could get to the next event or whatever, because the sponsorship dollars it's a labor of love. Yeah. So I was pursuing this career as a professional surfer, back up 7th Street is like my daily when I'm home, like land. And the next day I'm already, hey guys, I'll be back tomorrow, put me back on the schedule, and did that for a long time. And it's just, when you look back at it, everything I learned right there at the beach on the boardwalk from 12 years old till now. Yeah. And it's just, I've just really been lucky. Like that's how I got to Nike. And then it's all about just parlaying those networks, because you never know who you're talking to. Yeah.
I'm sure you didn't know that day you were talking to the West Coast guy at Nike when you brought down the kid across the boardwalk for a lesson. You probably weren't even thinking about that.
No, not at all.
And it's super authentic, right? It's like super authentic. I always feel that kids that grow up down the beach, down the shore, they're able to relate to so many different people. They're working in these high stress environments at teenagers, working with grown-ups that like that's actually their career, and you're learning how to navigate all that. And, it kind of sets you up if you're willing to kind of like use those skills that are soft skills that you've kind of learned and put in your quiver along the way. Like that can take you anywhere, whether that is the University of Life or the University of whatever. You get those skills in an early age, living and working at the beach, regardless of what you get into. You're working in a kitchen, or you're working on the beach, or you're working in a surf shop or a pizza shop. You're dealing with hundreds of people that are coming from all different areas daily. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like an incredible skill set that you develop.
It's like every day it's a different school, and it's a different tool in the tool belt, oh my God, this, that. And then you start your problem solving. And I think that that's what's really, when I try to talk to, kids, especially like I still do a lot of like surf coaching in the summer before, beneath every day. And it's like, I've been doing that. I've just been like someone who's always just helping. And it's like, they get to, they're lost. What do I do? Well, like, cause they're just like, you can just do this. And it's like, get a job at 14, like show up every day. You had to be accountable. Yep. Well, then I'm not going to get to surf.
Well, guess what? You can't surf every day when you're
old. It's like there's still 7 days in a week, but like that's just, and I think that I've just been, I don't know why, but I've just been blessed with like resilience and hunger. Like I'm a workaholic by trade.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I became a workaholic by trade by just doing it and just at all costs, because I was lucky to have a job that could let me leave and come and go and come and go and come and go. But I also knew that like if it wasn't super urgent between Memorial Day and Labor Day, I was hunkered down going for as many hours as I could go. And just people, I don't know how you do it. I just do it. I don't think about it. I don't ask about it. Like I just know this is what I got to do.
Yep.
You know, and I think that is like a trait that I developed at an early age through like surfing and competing and like managing my own career and negotiating deals and asking people, hey, check this out, you know, because I remember I used to have to write, you know, hey, I'm Matt Keenan, I'm 12, I live in Ocean City. And I would just go through magazines, look up addresses, you know, like photocopy some stuff, put it in there and mail it out. And then like
That was like your resume.
that was the resume. And it was just, you had to do so much to get so little. And I feel now it's just people can get paid 10, 20 grand to do a post. If you have enough people following you, it's like
Wild.
Oh yeah.
wild.
I was watching the Stab, like how surfers get paid, and like seeing how the industry changed from the golden years of like that early 2000s, Andy Irons, Kelly Slater, and then like now how some people have so many followers, they get paid by a car brand just to post, hey, this is us driving the car. And it's like, that's nuts. That's
not what
one
it
day
is.
and you just got that much
If
money.
you have enough followers.
Yeah, and it's just
Which is
it's
nuts.
The monetization of the transaction now, like the transactions. People can make crazy money, you know.
Yeah.
And everything is a hustle. I mean, you look at what Rob does. He's superior content all the time. He's but you don't know. Dude,
Marketing genius, that guy.
He's the most competitive
Mm-hmm.
SOB. Dude, he is so competitive.
Really?
I mean,
he doesn't actually, like
dude,
in his demeanor, he doesn't act competitive at all.
He is cool, calm, and collected. As wife Sean tell you, he is the coolest cat. One of my best friends. He does not like losing.
Really?
No. So, you know, as you hear it, like you can take that passion, that competitive drive, but it's how you apply it and how you show that externally. Like you would never, like you're just like, Rob's competitive? What do you mean?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, he's the nicest guy in the world when he walks by you.
But that's his person. He is generally the nicest guy.
Yeah.
And the hardest worker. Like you wouldn't realize how hard he works on things. But at the end of it, like it's that competitive drive. That is his superpower that most people don't see. And I've been, you know, super privileged from, you know, a really long time watching him develop.
Yeah.
He compartmentalizes that competitiveness internally. And that's what gets him motivated to go do, and then just the results and the things that he produces and the way that he catches and his
All my friends, we all have a running joke that every time there's a good swell, we're like, when's Rob Kelly going to break the internet today?
Yeah.
Like waiting for that clip to post because you know he's good for something. Any day there's
100%.
waves that he's going to break the internet, or he does some clever stuff, and it's like so well thought out. Everything he does, the numbskulls edits, the jetty. I mean, him moving to jetty, I think is incredible.
Yeah.
The New Jersey brand. New Jersey's one of the best surfers ever, I'd say.
Longevity.
Yeah.
As a pivotal, you know, it's 35 years old. It's a pivotal. Like he said it, you know, when we were talked about it, he's just like, I'm just at the age now. It's like, what's best for my longevity? And you know,
I mean, he's
perfect.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
Like
he's a maestro. He really, he can really, I don't want to say the word manipulate because it's not, but he can manipulate ideas and generate and twist and turn and add levels, detail, storytelling, emotion that most people can't. And just, he makes it look seamless. But, you know, at the end of the day, he's super competitive. I mean, last year at the grudge match, and I was 49 at the time, and I'm like, I'm going to get the final. I'm going to beat you, and then I'm going to quit, and I'm going to tell you you can never beat me again.
Yeah.
And I'm going to rub that in your face till the end of time. And I knew it wasn't going to happen. I got second. I got really close. But I mean, it was, and he
beat you?
He beat me in the end. But dude, he was like sitting on me like
heavy.
And I was just talking trash. Have fun. Oh my God, I'm going to beat you. And it's just like, and he was like, after you beat Cruz, I knew that you were coming, like that you were dead serious.
Like you're coming for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, I'm coming for you. I'm like, that's what you're going to do? You're going to coach a Cruz in this heat and against me? All right, cool, bud. I'm going to put him out. I'm going to come right for you. And just, but it was funny. And that was like a pivotal point for me. Cause like, I literally didn't do that 20 years to the day.
Mm-hmm.
I won it. And I had I just never, as I got older, just never had the right board or the last couple of years. Like I did it last year, 2 years ago I did it. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it when they bring it back. And I did it. And so this year I'm going to like really try to stay focused and like make sure like my back doesn't hurt and make sure my board's really good.
Yeah.
And like really, put some thought in the preparation. And I remember like, all right, in July, I started saying, all right, it's Condos in October. If I don't have a good board in the next month, like it's not. So then I got a good board. Cool. Check that off the box. Had a great board and just staying healthy. And, how do you like not pick up your kid wrong? And, just like, how do you not just wreck yourself doing something ridiculous? Because that's kind of like as you get older, you're just like, I just picked up a pen. How did I blow my back?
Start having to pay attention.
Yeah, so I started being super strategic, and that day was really fun, and it was a super fun day, and I got second. I really wanted it. I was definitely like, I was so close. I just needed a wave. I just didn't really get a wave. The high came in. It was really, and when it was over, I was just laughing. I'm like, dude, I wanted to be so bad. And I haven't had that like hunger to compete at that level in a long time. And then they did it this year and like, you're sure you're not coming back? You made the final last year. I'm like, nope. Done. And then just completely satisfied.
Yeah. Let's talk about competitiveness. We've been talking about that and kind of how that leads to a leadership style that works, because it doesn't always work, right? Like if you're ultra competitive, sometimes you're cutthroat and you alienate, right? So there's sometimes though where you have that competitive drive that you're able to create an environment, create a philosophy that kind of embraces other people and draws people in, and how that kind of works in leadership.
And I think in leadership, it's funny because you don't know what type of leader you're going to be until like you're put in that position. And whether you're like the manager of a surf shop or running a pizza store or the head beach tagger, like there's different ways. And I think when you try to compartmentalize it, like either you like people or you don't.
Right.
Yeah. And I learned at Nike, and I hate to say this about a brand that's just so rad, I had some really amazing mentors. I had incredible leaders. I had some really shitty bosses. And the bosses that really sucked and that ideally were the reason I left is because Nike continually put people that hated people in charge of teams.
That's not going to work.
If you hate people, like if you don't want to walk in and say hi to your team and like do whatever it takes, because I think
it's contagious.
It is.
When it comes from the top.
Is. And that's like
that. You need that culture.
Yeah, it's all
culture. And it's just like, when you become a leader, it's so much less about I and it's about we. When you become a really good leader, you should at most points of your day when you're working be the dumbest person in the room. For me, realizing that I now like winning as a team as opposed to being an individual, and getting called out on certain things through my career, but it's like it was always on me as a surfer, and I think that's why you see a lot of great coaches become great leaders is because you're developing a team, or a lot of great athletes that are in team sports go on to have a lot of success, and I think it's something you can really learn on. But at the end of the day, humility and being competitive have to be able to become to merge to be a really good leader. Because I think that there's three things that really guide a business and a leadership style. Now in this day and age, more than ever, I think it starts with your people. It starts with your passion, for the product or whatever team, business, whatever, and then profits. And I think when you put profits over people, that's when culture gets weird. But if you truly have an amazing product that everyone's bought in on, and then you have a truly awesome culture and people want to be there and want to win together, then the profits come. And I think that that's one thing that building businesses and helping people build businesses or work with people who are in businesses that are growing, there's definitely that gray area of what's more important, profitability or people. And it was always the bottom line. It's the bottom line. It's the bottom line. We're going to fire all these people. We're going to save $10 million. Our EBITDA is going to get better. And we're going to be back on track. No. It's going to be a short-term pain because you may balance that sheet out, but all those people did all these things for you and for them and for the team and for the brand and the we and the and gets so lost when you look at that profit that's how, culture is killed. And that's how you can build culture. And I think it's really starting with, did the people here love the product?
Right. And I'd imagine that probably changes as the company gets bigger and bigger. A company like Nike, who's publicly traded, their obligation is to the stockholders for their bottom line. Which is not. I'm not right or wrong. It's kind of is what it is.
It's par for the course. It's part of that business. But you'll see the new CEO that's back, Elliot. He was the head of the organization when I was there. I was there from 2010 to 2015 is when I was there, 2016. And he was there in that organization. He was such a people person. When you'd see him, he knew everybody's names. There'd be thousands of sales reps, and he was just such a good dude. And it's like, hey man, we're going to go direct to consumer. We don't need sales reps. We don't need anything. You get the guy from Amazon comes in, completely ruins the culture, completely ruins the business. Dick's, all your big wholesale partners, we're going to cut them. We don't need them.
Yeah.
Bringing a people person. Now it's like, watch what he does. Like watch in the next 5 years what the turnaround is, because you realize people, man, it's just interaction.
That's a stock tip right there.
Yeah, it's a stock tip. Still keep my Nike stock.
Yeah, there's like this concept that's a good move. Concept of like results. But results doesn't always mean profitability, right? Like you have a goal, you strive to get to that profitability or the money will come kind of naturally, but focusing on the result.
Yep. If you chase money, personally, it's like you get a job offer, it could be way more. You're like, wow, and I'm at a point, is short-term gain worth, anything these days? Because if you have something that is long-term sustainable growth, I'm definitely more of a 401k kind of guy. I plan for the future, and I like slow, steady growth, because I feel like if you get on one of those trains where it's like, boom, if it goes up, there's nothing, my boss says it all the time. He's our co-founder, Des. As fast as it goes up, it can go down. He's just like, we just want to be in it for the long term. And it's just, I do really see a shift, especially in small to medium-sized businesses. If you got good people and you got good culture and your product's good, and the salespeople, I always, because I'm a sales guy, it starts with sales because we're the last line of defense. Mm-hmm. Team builds it, gets the things, crafts the story, gives it to us. Here, go do your job.
Yeah.
If the product you're schlepping is good or not. And if it's not, you can only be a great liar for so long.
Yeah.
Phony.
Yeah.
It's just authenticity is everything. So some people can do it. I mean, God, your business is
with
so
a smile on their face, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, we deal with it every day, and we always talk about this.
Yeah.
How important culture is, and we talk about that a lot, like amongst ourselves, but from a bigger picture from our brokerage here at the Satnick and everything like that, and we're still a boutique brokerage, but we're one of the bigger brokerages around, and I think it is like spot on to what you said, the culture. You don't have the people that you want to come into work every day to see. I mean, half the time we're working, but we're in there hanging out because we like being around each other.
It's contagious. And so like, that's kind of
spills over. And it does come through, I believe, in nobody has to buy a house with us. They can buy it with you. They can buy it with the next guy. Anybody can sell them a house. They want to work with people who are knowledgeable, genuine, authentic, and care about what they're actually selling, whether it's underwear or houses or, anything.
Do you care about the community?
Care about the community, care about the people, actually have a genuine connection with them.
God, how good is it working with good people? And I think it's just, you keep saying it. We keep saying it. It's just like, how good is it to work with great people? It's just so much more fun.
It is. And as you scale, it's a numbers thing, like anything.
It gets tough.
You get 3,000 people a day through your surf shop, you're going to get a couple knuckleheads.
There's always going to be bad seats.
Exactly.
It's the age old thing, but it's just like when you just have a team and the synergy, and I call it, as I've kind of shifted a little bit, I teach a lot of surf lessons in the summer. What I've kind of decided is I can't teach surf lessons forever. God, it's grueling. It's fun. I love it. But what can I do to, stimulate myself outside of work? Because I do really believe that you have to have a good side hustle, and it doesn't have to be something that consumes you. I started Matt Keenan Speaks, like kind of like business consulting, keynote speaking, because as an athlete, it's a very connectable thing, and the beach, everyone loves the beach. So it's something that is easily accessible to whether you're talking to, real estate guys or, emerging tech companies. It's like everyone loves the beach. So there's that. And so that's kind of where I've shifted, 3 to 5 hours a month mentoring and working with people and businesses. And it's been super rewarding because I think what's really cool about it is just being authentic and having someone to keep you accountable sometimes, no matter how big your business is or how long you've been doing something, you can make a difference. And I think that's what like teaching someone to surf is, like how stoked they are. Like, that first wave, how stoked they are.
Their face lights up and you know that feeling they have. It's insane.
And then that's been the core foundation of my life.
Yeah.
It's still surfing.
And it teaches you in surfing, like you can fall, get right back up and try again. Like
100%.
Just keep going. Don't give up just because you couldn't get up on the first go.
Yeah, and I randomly had a phone call, or actually just a message on LinkedIn from a girl that I went to high school with who was like, hey, I think we should talk your career path, your past as a professional athlete. Like, I think you should come work for my company. I'm like, well, I don't have a full-time job. I love it. There ain't no way I'm leaving this thing. We've been building this brand for 5 years. Like, I'm not, my hands are coming off the steering wheel.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, no, not at all. Like, I do high-end coaching. It's called Moxie. She's based out of New York, and she does high-end keynote speaking, classes, mentorship for luxury brands. Cartier, Louis Vuitton.
I think I've heard.
So she
Moxie.
Yeah. So she does all this cool stuff, and she's like, "Hey, I would love to pitch you to some of these high-end clients,
That's
and
awesome.
just let's find, So hey, can you meet my partner?" So we started talking, and she's like, "Well, did you ever think about keynote speaking?" I'm like, "Not really." I'm like, "But I'm a sales leader. I talk to my sales team every day. Like I talk to people every day.
Different
I go to trade shows and stop. Hey, buddy."
Yeah.
What underwear are you wearing? It's like super weird. Hey, do you know your underwear's broken? Just find that way. So I'm a people person. So she was like, well, let's meet my partner. So we talked and, so it was like, oh, I do have a story to tell, or do I have too much to tell, or not enough? And she's kind of just helped me kind of come through this little bit of what do you stand for? What do you want to do? How about this? And whether it's a keynote speech about adversity or this and that. And it just was so broad that she's like, well, what's the foundation? Like, what really gets you, what's at the nucleus of you, Matt Keenan? And it's just like, well, when I'm in that flow, and she's like, you keep saying it, and her partner stopped me. You keep saying the word flow. And I've seen videos of you surfing. You look very pretty on a wave. I don't know if that's a word. I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
She's like, you're very smooth and you have a good flow. And I'm like, well, I was always known for my style, for being really smooth. And the flow state when you're in a contest and you're catching your waves and your board works and you're winning heats and you're not trying. It's just happening and you're reacting. And she's like, there's your story. So that's kind of what really transpired over the last couple of months is trying to find the flow state. And now that she's kind of brought me into this world, I haven't done a single thing for her yet. I would love, my goal is I would love to sit there in front of Hermes and talk to her leadership team about the flow state because, traditional luxury is so stoic and so set in stone, and Louis is brown and it's always been brown, but people have been there 30, 40 years. So when you're trying to achieve a different goal, she's like, this is why I need you to come and help break down some of those barriers. And you have to really work cross-functionally a lot better these days. Marketing needs to talk to sales. Sales needs to talk to product. There has to be more of that cohesive bond. So the flow state thing kind of came out of that. And, next thing you know, I'm like, well, I don't know if they'll come see my social media or my LinkedIn. And I run an underwear brand. I'm not a keynote speaker. She's like, well, here, let's do some things. Let's change your profile on LinkedIn and just add, you're a brand architect, you're a motivator, the things that you do. Let's say that loud and proud. I'm like, cool. So we did that. And then she's like, see? And she's like, now I need you to post some of our ideas about the flow state and creating flow and this, that, and the other. So I just told a few stories of, like one, I got to a point at Nike where I was not happy. I was miserable. My boss hated me. She said really mean stuff like, I can't believe you're even here. It's like, you're a middle schooler that got promoted to college. You have no skill set. And it was for the first time where it's like, I'm going to give up. Like I'm a broken person, lived in LA.
It's discouraging.
It was a really dark time because I had never found a hole that I couldn't dig myself out of. And it's like, no matter how hard I would work to try to do a better presentation or to go into these key account meetings, because I ran a really big business, to show, and the company loved me. Like I was a great transitionary person between what Nike would have me sell and then taking it to this big company, selling them millions of dollars of everything we made. And I was there, I was partners with them. I loved that part of it, but I decided that I wasn't going to do it. And I wrote a post about how I went to Fiji with a friend on an invite.
I saw this on LinkedIn.
And that was kind of, so this was like, self-motivated, but also definitely premeditated. She's like, hey, let's see what kind of response like your message gets.
Yeah.
And I kind of posted this thing and I got a lot of feedback like, dude, wow, I needed this. And it's like, there was guys that were mentors to me. They're like, hey man, I'm struggling. I got let go and it's like, it kind of was like, wow, that was really just cool. I'd just be like, hey man, come see me at Surf Expo. Like I use LinkedIn pretty much as what's going on in business. Come find us here. Come see us here. Here's what we're doing. Very post period. I'll be at this trade show. Come see us booth 435 period. So then I started to do this thing through Aaron, and I had a guy reach out to me, and I'm not going to say the name of the brokerage in Florida. It's a massive commercial company. And this guy, Ryan, hit me up. He's like, hey, do you do mentoring? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And he's like, well, what does it cost? And I came up with this little thing. I talked to Aaron. She's like, it's super reasonable. So I'm like, all right. So I told him, because I'm always answering people's questions, but my wife is always like, dude, you give away too much shit for free. He's like, and I'm like, and Aaron was the same way. Like, do not give away everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, these guys are my friends. She's like, you know everyone. Everyone is your friend. Like, so we came up with this strategy, and long story short, so it was like, I started doing Matt Keenan Speaks to support Erin so she could shop me around so I could eventually have a keynote to talk to some luxury brands and be introduced as the VP of sales at Beneath. And then people would ask me what Beneath is, and then I would be telling Hermes and Louis Vuitton and all these people and Tiffany about Beneath.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
good flywheel.
That was the flywheel that I was really invested in. I'm telling my our co-founder and my boss, hey, I'm going to go do this. It's not going to take away any of my time or my focus on this, but how cool would it be to get invited to go to Louis Vuitton or Hermes and talk to their leadership team and be introduced as the head of sales for an underwear brand? You never know where that could go.
Yeah.
And it's completely gone the other way. I haven't done a single thing in what we intention to do. And I've honestly continuously have real estate, either sales or brokers or leaders, reach out to me and say, hey, so let me back to the story so quickly. So Ryan was like, hey, I would like to work with you. And I said, here's what it costs. He's like, that's really reasonable. Cool. All right, well, here's the deal. The first call cost X, it's for an hour. But you need to do homework, because if the call's at 9:01, we're getting into the nitty gritty. And this is 7 hours at your rate, whatever you want to do, 1 month, once a week, whatever. And he was like, all right, I'm going to be leaving this company. I don't think I want to do this anymore, blah, blah, blah. We've had 6 calls. Last week, he closed a $22 million deal. His new manifesto is, I will be at this company for the next 3 to 5 years, and here's what I'm going to go do. And for the first time, this is my first client.
Yeah.
I'm just like, holy crap.
Everything happens for a
hey,
reason.
everything you did, everything you told me, you're so good at what you do. And I'm like, I just kept you accountable. I just kept you on the path. I just kept you motivated, but I just called you out. Action over everything. You're giving me a bunch of lip service. I could care less because you already paid me. That's how this works.
Yeah.
You pay, but if you put action into that, you're going to get out of it. And it was just so now I've kind of really just been psyched on trying to find what that is, but it's weird. So I was entering this mentoring side hustle thing, to try to have a couple keynote speaks a year, 1 or 2 a year, make some money, speak to some really cool brands. And now it's kind of completely been 3 to 5 hours a month of just talking to like really cool people who are just lost or just not sure and just like been through a lot. And it's just like, it's just people helping people. So it's been really fun. So I think that, when you reached out to me about doing this, I think that's been the craziest thing is because I just never expected that to happen. I mean, I expected someone pay a bunch of money for us to go and talk about our past experiences and resilience. And,
PowerPoints and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, this
I'm
is
the
good.
world's biggest loser, like at 27 second places. Like there ain't nothing big, you've never met a bigger loser than me. I'm the biggest loser for sure. And it's just been completely different. And it's just been really cool to see that like being a people person, being organized. I mean, I didn't know I could mentor people. Like I didn't know I had the skill set to come up with a program. And it just kind of like happened. So it's just been really fun.
It's organic. It's authentic, which is the most important thing. And
Fake it till you make it. It's just like, you get in that sink or swim because he hit me up and I'm like, shoot, this wasn't supposed to happen. This was supposed to be fake. Like, it's true story. It's true heart. It's true passion. It's all authentic. But this was just to build a case study. So when Aaron shopped me to luxury brands, like they looked me up.
Yeah,
this guy has some substance. Cool.
Yeah.
So like we built this substance.
building your resume on it.
Yeah. We were just trying to take a life skill set and like put some substance to it. A linear track. Like he does this, and this. Like look, here's some things, and it's been super exciting and incredibly rewarding. And I was just floored that when you look back, because I'm busy traveling and working and traveling for Beneath and surf lessons and family in the summer and just running but we talked consistently once a month. Okay. Hey Ryan, but I would text him, hey, what's up? Action for everything, right? Auction, and we just had this great thing. And then, we literally just wrapped up last week and he was like, hey, Merry Christmas, MK. Just wanted to let you know, I just wrapped up this mega deal, like 22 million paperwork signed. I'm like, dude, why didn't you tell me? He's like, I was just too scared to tell you. But it's like, but then he's like, you kept me accountable. You kept me on track. Like you helped me find the purpose. Like, and then
that's awesome.
The last meeting you go through and I'm like, look at this opening docket. Your first sentence. I don't know if I'm going to be here anymore. Look at the first sentence at the end. Now I am going to be here for 3 to 5 years. And it was really cool. And I mean, you just never know.
Never know.
So it was really cool.
You just threw something out there into the ether and like this idea kind of took shape and took you this way.
Yeah.
Right.
It just changed completely. I mean, I went in there, to be super honest, like pretty greedy and just trying to be like, you know what, I'm going to do this because she asked me to do it. And hopefully like we'll get a sick deal and get paid a bunch of money to do a keynote. Cool. That sounds fun.
And then it just
completely took me the other way.
Which could still happen though.
Oh, totally.
Just a different route.
It's just like when you look back, like when I was 12, like, was I supposed to go to that contest? I don't know. And then I do and I don't, and I'm not going to do it. And then you go and then you win and then you fail and then you win again, you rise. It's just kind of always that phoenix out of the ashes type of thing. It's like, you're never out.
It's resiliency, right? And you learn that and you didn't know when you were 12 to 18 and had that, drought, you were learning stuff that was going to set you up 30 years later to be successful.
And it's crazy because you don't really know what you don't know. But then if you just like kindly slow down and try to think things through and like, I can get through this. I can do this. I can do that. Like
that's always my biggest fear. We worry about like what you just said. You don't know what you don't know. And it's good to surround yourself with people who are, like you said, you never want to be the smartest one in the room.
No. And it's just like, it's so fun. Like my 8-year-old does math and I can't do his math sometimes. I'm like, what are you doing? You're just line them up. That's not how you do it. I'm like, that's how we used to do it. He's like, not in 1990s.
Yeah. My daughter's 8 too.
Dude,
so
he's always like, my son is like, everything he thinks the 1990s. Like, did they have cars or were you in a wagon in the 1990s? I'm like, what
electricity back then?
Yeah. Like, it's wild. But yeah, it's just like, I'm super thankful to even get to come down here and talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Like, what you guys do, and I've noticed in the real estate business is, it is so transactional. It is so competitive. It's so linear. Like it's just show the house, follow up, hopefully get an offer, does the bank, like it's a complexity that in most businesses, most people would give up because I think I got him. I don't got him. I'm back in. It is just like if you say
daily occurrence.
I'm going into real estate and I believe that I am going to be able to provide a great service, and the strategy is our agency is going to be friendly. We're going to shake your hand. We're going to look at you like whatever that credo is for your agency. And if you buy in, you just got to show up day in, day out, take your emotions out of it. And I know it's really hard to. Everyone's going to have good or bad days, but if you just stay 50%, not 49, not 51, if you just keep steady, you're going to win. I mean, it's you just have to put your time in, but you never know like who you're going to talk to and who that person's going to talk to. And it's the same kind of thing in real estate. It
takes one person.
It just takes one deal. But what you guys and girls do in real estate is just, I'm not cut out for it. Emotionally, I need a little bit more stability. I have good and bad days, lose big deals, find big deals, but at the end of the day, every 2 weeks I get paid.
Yeah.
You guys and girls can go, and that's where like helping Ryan and closing this deal, he's like, I haven't had, because he's a commercial real estate, I haven't had a substantial deal in 2.5 years. I'm like, dude.
That's how the commercial world goes now.
Yeah.
How
Ride
can
them high,
you even function? Like I couldn't even wake up and drink coffee. Like I'm a planner, so like I know what's coming in, what's going out. Hey, I'm gonna do this. How do I do this? Like I'm like I said, I'm definitely a risk taker, but I'm very in control. The ability to be commission only in a market that fluctuates like ours, and just kudos. But I think that's kind of like why I don't understand. I mean, I guess I know a ton of realtors because you live in South Jersey.
Yeah.
Everyone's a realtor.
Every surfer's a realtor.
Yeah, everyone. But what's great about it is it's like that's kind of what this like, you know, the transition of like my mentoring thing is. It's like 3 to 5 hours a month. Like currently, like I'm talking to real estate guys, and I'm talking to guys who like make a lot of money. And one of them, it was even like one of the biggest fish. Like you'd be amazed if I told you the name. He was like, I wake up and my business is run on fear. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's kind of accurate. I am not going to be able to
keep this up. I'm like, fear. That's what has built this empire. Bud, you got to self-regulate, because I watch you lead your teams and you walk shoulder to shoulder with everybody. And their wins are your wins. And that's why people work for you. Like you're amazing at what you do. But at the end of the day, if the core foundation is fear, but that's a recipe for disaster. You need to change that mentality. He's like, well, we should talk. And I'm like, it's funny you say that. And I, but I'm just like,
segues.
Fear is what is propelling him to be successful. And I said, imagine if you could not worry about the fear and lean into your strategy and put more time into like smiling and not like containing any negative thoughts in that. And he's like, well, I do. I'm like, but you told me that your business is run on fear that you can't keep this up. Dude, that's a scary place to live.
Yeah. I wouldn't be
It's
able
like
to
a
do
motivated fear, I think. I mean, I kind of understand where he's coming from on that. Like, but to what you said, you show up and you stay the course and you stay the course and you stay busy and you follow 50%. It and you follow it and you follow it.
Just keep it steady.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
It may happen like that.
You may have to have a couple side hustles, side jobs, do flip pizzas, work at night, like figure it out. But like if you're chasing your passion, you literally have to be willing to do whatever it takes.
And you got to be 2 feet in, and you never know.
Dude,
I mean, Kevin closed the biggest deal we've had in our company 2 years ago. 2 years ago?
Months.
18 months. Not even 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that was just by being in it.
Yeah.
It was I don't want to say a chance meeting, but it was just being in it.
It was a chance meeting that I
right place, right time.
created a relationship and it grew.
NBA player.
Authentic.
But
Yes.
Avalon.
It's this idea that this industry, if you're like the kind of person that counts their chickens before they hatch, like you're done, right? And it is about staying even. The thing that I think sets DeSatnick Real Estate apart is the culture. And it's like this team approach, because there are times where you're down, right? And you need people to kind of lift you up. And you were talking about like giving somebody a surf lesson, right? And you see the stoke that the person that you're giving a lesson the first time they get up. And it's like, you're just as excited as they are. That kind of translates too into what we do, and at least the way that we operate. Like you do a big deal, you do a big deal, somebody in the office does a big deal, you get excited for them, you get stoked for them. Like that's huge, because if you're jealous of them, then that's leading to all bad emotions that are not going to help you to be successful. So this idea that like you work together, you pick people up, you get excited when somebody else is putting a deal together and they're putting money in their pocket, not your pocket, but you're as excited for them, right? That I think leads to
it's a strong
those
character
things
trait.
that build,
Yep. And I think that's like if you can create
raise all ships kind of stuff. You know?
High tides raise all ships, and I think and I think that's what's really hard, because you guys are all close, but you're all trying to provide for your families and do things, or start a family, or raise a family, or continue to hold on to a family, like all those different levels. But in real estate, it's just like the phone rings and the guy next to you closes a big deal, and you're just like, stoked for him, but at the same time, like mentally, like I have a lot of friends. It's just like, God, you guys are some of the most resilient men and women like that there is. And it's just like, 0 to hero. And it's just, kudos to you guys. But I think what's really cool about you guys and how you guys do your business is that it is very people oriented. I don't know much about this zone, but when I look at the microsphere of Ocean City and how many realtors are there and why some people do so much more business than other people, it's just because like resiliency. Show up every day, 8 to 6, Tuesdays I call. It's just like, you got to be all in. And it's just, but I think when I watch and I can tell how good friends you are and I can see how stoked you guys are, it's just like, that's something special about this agency for you guys, is that, you use the word boutique. I like it, more of just like, this is a small team or a small franchise here, like it's a team of people. And you're all going to win, because at the end of the day, it's like you're being very consistent and you're all being yourselves. And, no place to hide.
Resiliency, but it took me, when I left my job at Kona last January, a year ago, it took me 10 tries to pass my real estate exam. And I remember I was talking to Zach through, through Instagram, and he was like, just stay with it, keep studying. And Todd, being the great broker that he is, even got me tutoring, and I was like, this guy's supporting me.
It's hard. I got my real estate license in between the surf. I did the 2-week class, powered it out.
Yeah.
Finished on a Friday, took the test on a Monday, got it, passed it first try, and then
lucky you.
I floundered though. I hung it, and then the rules changed, and you had to go back to do other things. Like years later, I'm like,
it's hard to do if you're not.
Yeah.
Like anything, if you're not doing
well,
it.
it's just like, but that was my. I remember having a 2-week break, and my mom's like, why don't you get your real estate license? I'm like, are you out of your mind? She's like, well, you can't you're home for a month. What else are you going to do? I'm like, work out, surf. She's just like, well, go do that.
How old were you when you did that?
I was 26.
Okay.
Took it, powered it out, did like that 8 to 5. I was like doing nothing. I would come home from the class. I would make my cards. I would study. Like I went all in. Dude, straight through the weekend, Monday through Friday, went to the library on the weekend and like made my flashcards and like did it, went to school Monday through Friday, did it through the weekend, took that class test on Monday. I mean, it was a blur. I was a mess, but I'm like, I gave myself 15 days. If I don't get it, I'm never taking this again. And I went all, but it just shows you my personality. I'm a psycho. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this all in, and just went straight from class, straight to the library, all weekend at the library, reading that stuff. But yeah, there's just, you guys have a really tough thing with kudos. That's the first time I heard this story. I knew very long.
Dude,
that's 10 times.
Dude, I was borderline, and I remember too, I quit and I just got married that fall. So I got my wife kind of looking at me like, you just left your thing.
Every 2 weeks.
And now here we are, and I'm racking up the credit cards and I'm trying to figure this out. And she was like, well, what's your plan B? And I was like, to be honest, I don't have one, because I'm going to make this work.
But that's why
and I put my back up against the wall. And I remember there were certain people throughout that transition that told me it's not going to work. You're going to fail. And I remember I got really into writing stuff down. like Griffin Colapinto has his journal. I bought one of those and I wrote down like all the shit those people said, and I was just like, I'm gonna prove them all wrong. And now it's funny because now I see them and they're like, dude, you're killing it, and it's like, yeah, well, thanks.
Well, you have to have
list
blind
like
faith.
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah,
Kill
Happy
list.
Gilmore, chocolate.
Real estate is not for the faint of heart. You know?
No,
Like
no.
nice guys finish last. Like they say all that stuff. Dude, maybe sometimes like this business is insane, but
Yeah.
that's rad.
Yeah, and then like, you know, Zach and I became a team. That totally happened organically. I started, he kind of took me under his wing, and then it just like blossomed into this, just like he became a leader, but then became my friend. And then it was just like, hey, we work well together. Let's do this all in together.
Yeah.
Because we have the same
And
goal.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
That commonality and the common goal is huge because you guys are very, very different.
Yeah.
Very different
Zach can
backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally different. And you guys really do gel really well together for this team approach, you know?
Yeah.
And it is because you have a common goal.
Yeah,
Common
that's
goal.
what it is. I think that in anything, like even in our, so we have 3 offices. We have, over 100 licensed agents, and all of us work out of one specific office together. And just even in our offices, like you said, we have a lot of different personalities, but we all mesh well with a common goal. I want to see Kevin do just as well as I see, me or Nick or Jimmy or Carly.
Dude, everyone's killing it. How fun it is. That's the flow state. And it's like you talk about like, it's funny. I should send you guys the thing. There's like, that graph where it has challenge on this side and skill set here. But in the middle is that flywheel. And it's all the emotions, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at a clock, 12 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, that's the flow state, right? But all the emotions as you go down, because this is where it's contagious, everyone's winning, everyone's selling houses, we're all stoked, things are great. Market slows, interest rates go up. Oh, am I doing this right? How am I going to pay my bills? Look at all those emotions that you have to go all the way around that clock to get back to the flow state. Well, what if you just said, I'm going to make this work no matter what? I'm going to stay in the flow state. And anytime you got low on energy, your team just picked you right back up. You don't have to go through that whole process of like doubt and am I going to find another deal? Am I going to do this? And like that's what's really cool. Is
you're not alone.
You're not alone.
You feel like you're getting beaten down and my deal's not going to close and you're not going to believe what happened. Oh, yeah.
But I think that's the future of leadership. It's like, how do you create that flow state where things are, and it's never going to be easy. No. It's never going to be always sunshines and rainbows. It's always not going to be the best coffee of the day. You're going to drink some bad coffee. You're going to have to pull over and drink that gas station stuff.
Yeah.
There is that thing. But if you can continue to tip back up and feed and lift people up, a good leader in a good business, like that's the future of it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because no matter what, you can't control what you can't control. But if you don't have to go through those emotions, anxiety, depression, can I do this? Is this the right place for me? How am I going to get this deal done? It's never going to work. But if you can be like, you know what? I'm here. I'm not going to break. What's going on? Hey, man, I'm just down. I got you. Like, you know what? Let's go show this house together. You just need to see some cool people. It's just like, that's the kind of
If you can have that, you're right. If you can have that support when you are going through building the resiliency and you have that support around you, it can make all the difference in the world.
And I think that's like, when we talked about like things you want to talk about, like for me, for our brand, the we mentality. So I had a girl in finance who was super bright. Brazilian girl in her 20s, super eager, wants to be in sales. I see her and I'm like, I don't want you to be in sales right now. You know all the details. You know all the background. You know all the reporting. I want you on my team because then you can make me better and show me how to pull better data and answer questions more analytically. And what I want to teach you is how to be a people person because I want to go on the road and sell. You don't need to. I'm going to teach you how to become a sales manager. So you're going to skip that whole thing because you have the most important part. You have a very detailed and analytical background and you love people. Imagine if I teach you about the business and then I put you in front of those people and then you build a network and then you put all your analytical mind with that passion that you have to want to do sales, you're going to be unstoppable. Mm-hmm. I said, but at the same time, I want you to come here and help me be better. So I'm going to be greedy and say, please come to my team from finance. This may seem really weird because you have no sales background, but you have the resiliency and the hunger and the want. And she's amazing. Our business is so much better since she's come to the team because she's like, I know in my gut, hey, I think it's around 80. She's like, nope, it's like 76. I'm like, well, I was close. She's like, well, it's 76. So I can get us 80% of the way there. She always gets me to 100.
That's awesome.
And it's been really fun, you know, building teams out. So when we started this brand, like hiring friends and hiring reps and building out a business and talking to golf, you know, I never knew anything about golf or anything about menswear or anything about, you know, and it's just, this brand has gone across so many different things, but it's like building relationships and bringing people in and watching people, you know, win and have fun and build a brand. It's been really fun. It's been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, because you have to really, there's a lot of people when you're running a sales organization. Everyone's 1099, you know, because they all have their brands that they make a lot of money, and underwear is an accessory, and it's, you know, the commissions are so much lower. So by the time they do all their selling, you know, then they pull out the underwear. Hey, we got this last thing. It's just like, you know, so I'm like, hey, can we change that strategy? If it only takes you 15 minutes to sell, why can't you just start with that before the hour-long appointment with apparel? Start with that and see if that changes. And like, oh my God, I sold some more stuff. Yeah. It's not making money. It's not becoming a juggernaut, but it's growing. It's fast. And so it's just been like super complex, and it's just like learning things and skill and people management and leadership styles. And it's just, I think if you are resilient and you genuinely like people, you're meant to do things where your interaction with relationships and networks and friends and family and colleagues and team building, like that just becomes a lot more fun.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. And then, yeah, and that's what you do. But when you enjoy it, it spills over, and you know, the energy spills over, and it becomes part of everything you do. It spills over to the different areas and segments of your business and your life. And I believe that all works into that flow state when you can, you know, be enjoying what you do. You wake up every day and you're like, oh, this is cool. I like doing
you
this.
wake up with purpose. I mean, there's nothing worse. I mean, like, oh, you know, the time to make the donuts guy. Yeah. Time to make the donuts. You know, it's just like I say that, and I try to show Taj like that old, like I try to find it on YouTube. He's like, why is he bummed? It's donuts. I'm like, dude, you don't understand. You're like, hey,
Taj just wants the donuts.
You know, now minimum wage is like $15.96 or whatever.
Yeah,
I remember,
it's not so bad anymore.
Yeah. You know, it's like 3 cups of coffee.
It's that idea though of balancing like the joy of work and then also the responsibility of being the dad that has to support the family, you know, and you probably get support from elsewhere, but it's like all those other stresses.
That starts to compound.
You want to stay in the flow zone, right? But it's hard. For me personally, I feel like I always need to get pulled back into that state.
Yep.
I wake up one morning, I don't get right out of bed, then I'm like, I'm shot. I need somebody to like literally grab me and like kick me going, and then I can try to stay there. But I find the stresses of life and the stresses of being, you know, a father. I'm 50. I have one daughter is a freshman in college, one daughter going next year. It's like, how are we going to do this? You know, it's hard to not find the joy.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
Because you're like, I got to make the money. I got to get this.
Yeah, I got to. And I think it's just, but it's like if you take that steady approach, you're going to figure it out. And it's just like, it's either going to happen or it's not. So regardless of the negative or the positive energy that you put into it, it is or it isn't anyway. So just put positive. Like just, you know, there's no need to be negative, because what's the worst that's going to happen? It's not going to happen anyway. So you'll have to figure it out eventually.
Right.
You know? So, I think that I really start to look at, and I'm the same way, like young kids missing waves or having to do this or miss basketball or help with this or do that. Like, it's hard to not like be like emotional, like, oh, I'm not getting to do what I want to do. And it's like, when you get a family, that I becomes a we, and, you know, it adds definitely a different level of complexity. I remember I quit Nike with my wife pregnant, and my daughter was 2, and I had no plan, but I knew that I had some savings, and I knew that I was in California. I have an incredible network. I'm going to put it out. Like, I'm going to go create, I'm going to manifest what's going to happen next. And I'm like, babe, I know you're pregnant. Like, if I stay here and we stay in LA and I stay at Nike, like, you're going to leave me. I'm going to end up just falling apart. You know, no, not even, I wasn't even surfing in LA because it was too much traffic. Like, just, it was really bad. But it's just, it's that blind faith sometimes that, if you have a strong home life, it's like us as men, maybe it's not like cool to talk about things, but when you talk through it and you like make a plan and say, babe, I need you to support me in this. Like, this is what we're going to do. How are we going to do it? And you just kind of figure it out. And it's, if you can kind of try to alleviate that pressure, because it's always on us. Hey, we have to be the breadwinner. Like, there's other ways to figure it out. Like, my wife is a makeup artist, but she's like starting on Monday, going back to be an esthetician, just because she's just like, hey, I'm bored when the girls are at school, but like at the end of the day, like this can help our future. Like I can work when they're at school. Like, you grinded our entire relationship and let us, I raised our kids, like we raised our kids, like not daycare, like we figured it out. We've got through that crazy hump, because you know how crazy it can be. But like the next stretch is going to be, as my kids are 12 and 8, college, and how do we pay for that? How do you create that next like financial net to like get to that next phase? And I think, that's kind of why I'm trying to diversify myself. You guys in this business, like, some guys are drafty and they're like, oh, we do on the mortgages, we're doing the title insurance. Like,
you get creative. We see a lot of people going into the development side or the buying side. It's kind of the natural progression,
It's just because it's in the same wheelhouse. So I think that's where you brought me to like my next point. I always say it's the and. What can you add on to that service?
Yeah.
You can sell houses. Well, why can't I build a house? Because I look at guys who build like multi-million-dollar houses. They come in, build the frame. You can build a multi-million-dollar house with your hands, but you will never own one because you can't afford to build your own house. Yeah. So that kind of seems unfair. Like,
definitely.
How do you, those guys, well, I was an apprentice and I started my own construction company. Then I did this. Like, there's.
And they're willing to take the risk too, right? Like you were talking about, like you're a 401k guy, like steady growth, like conservative on that aspect. And like, if you're that guy, it's hard to take that risk. There's some guys are just like, I don't care if I'm on a roller coaster for the next 5 years, up and down, crazy.
Big risk, big reward.
Yeah, exactly.
I saved this one thing. I texted Nick and said, if you're worried about the cost of going for it, you should see the prices staying exactly where you are.
Show me this yesterday. We were talking about
and I have that I say a lot. And then the other one is happiness is muscle. You got to work out it. It's just like going to the gym. You got to work out it. And it's the same type of mentality, but it's the most important trick to be happy is to realize that happiness is a choice that you make and a skill that you develop. You choose to be happy and then you work at it. It's just like building muscles. And those two things stay on my phone. And I can't tell you how many times people hit me like, hey man, what's going on? Just struggling, I'm like, well, are you happy? No, I'm not happy. Why not? And I just send them that. Or like, hey man, I'm looking at this deal. I don't know. I'm like, well, did you run the numbers? Yeah. Can you pay the mortgage next month if you lose it? Probably, or yes. Cool. Okay. So now it's calculated risk.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not going to lose. You're not going to lose everything.
Yeah.
So, and it's, I've done it many times. Like invested in business and people. And one of my friends, a few years ago said to me, only put in what you are willing to drop. And I'm like, drop. He's like, imagine if you were walking down the street and you dropped it. Would your life change if you couldn't pick that back up? No. No, what would it change? Or I'm like, no, my life wouldn't change. I'd be pissed. I will be bummed. I will kick myself, but I will not lose my house. I can, whatever. He's like, all right, then do it. And then that's kind of the approach. So I definitely am a risk taker, but I have a 401k mentality. I try to take calculated risk because I build a foundation and then I vary off of that, whether it's investing in a liquor company or a coffee shop or doing other things. But just like in real estate, hey, talk to a buddy who's a developer. Hey, how do you raise capital? Oh, we don't do anything that's not cash funded. We fund everything. How do I get in on that? Just ask. How much can I put in? How much you want to put in? I don't know. Can I start at $5? It's like, obviously not 5, but like 50, 5. You're like, what do you want to put in? Oh, I could do this. Fine. And it's
you're
just
in.
like, you're in. So cool. And then it's sold and you got 14% back on your money. And then
roll it
to the next one. The next one's it's like, so there's just like, but I've always kept a foundation of trying to like have a few, I'm never going to stop teaching surf lessons until like I physically can't, but I'm hoping like this is probably my last year. Like I'm hoping I can get done, but then go into mentoring and replace that high of and that side hustle just becomes a passion project. And I think if you have a passion project and a job you love, you're always going to be able to figure it out. And, hustler's mentality, you know.
You're always going to be happy with what you're doing too.
Yeah, and I think that's
and that's
really
the most important thing. You want to be happy with what you're doing.
You want to wake up. You want to go to not even wait. You want to wake up happy, but you want to go to sleep happy.
Yeah,
It's
just like you always say, I never want to go to bed angry. Try to just do simple things. And
you mentioned the person to not be named living off of fear, right? And successful living off of fear. There's the other side of that where like sometimes you're so fearful that you never even ask the question, right? So like, let's talk about that. Like, let's talk, and maybe you don't have any input into it, but anybody here, like living in fear where like you don't take the next step because of the fear of the failure.
And that's kind of like why I just said that, imagine the cost of not living where you're at. And I think what's really cool about fear is something that you remember when you're a little kid, you were scared of the dark, or you're scared of what's under your bed. And then you realize there's nothing under your bed, or you realize the dark isn't that scary. I think fear is something that you can work at, just like happiness, like a muscle, like an exercise, to get over. And I think how that really can come out in like business, especially taking risks. It's knowing what you're going after, what hopefully your end result is. Who are you in it with? Because I think camaraderie starts to really help eliminate a lot of that fear.
Knowing you're not alone.
Yep, knowing you're not alone. And then sometimes it's like, if you're not willing to bet on yourself, then it's never going to work. They always say there's no atheist in the impact zone. Oh my God, this man's going to kill me. You don't have to be religious to say, oh my God, but how many times have you done that serving? Oh my God, this is going to kill me. Or a lot, and it's that blind.
Well, my wife's going to kill me.
Life in general.
Yeah, my wife's going to kill me.
You could always look at things like, you could do this or not do it. You're going to be in the same spot if you don't do it.
And you
don't give it a try.
It's just,
you calculate it out as much as you can. Try to be smart. Try to plan for it. There's always going to be variables. But, you could stay where you're at right now, or you can bet on yourself. You're going to show up no matter what you're doing and work 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 hours a week. So if you can do it and bet on yourself, where there's most of the time more upside to that, where you're going to make money, or you're going to have the asset, or you're going to have something to leave for your kids. My thought is bet on yourself.
Yeah, you always got to bet on yourself. And I think fear is just something that how fun would life be if you just didn't take any type of risk? Like, look back at your life. Like, you learned how to walk, you learned how to swim, like so many things that you've conquered that you thought were fearful. I didn't like the ocean. I didn't like this. It's like, you can always get past that. And I think if sometimes you just have to, wind the clock back a little bit and just think, all right, when was the last time I was really scared? Or what did I do? And just being a parent, like how all of a sudden they're like, all right, you can go home today. You're like, what do you mean? You came and took the baby. Like, I was just sleeping in this chair. And like, nope, just go put it in the car and drive home. Like that is the crazy, like, what do you mean?
There's no barrier.
There's no safety net. Yeah, you're driving 5 miles an hour. You're just gripping that wheel and you're just like, holy crap, this is happening. Well, you got through it. You
figured it out. There's been a million people to figure it out before you.
Alive.
There's going to be a million after you.
It's just.
And that fear could be huge. It could be taking a risk and I'm putting everything in, or it could simply be like texting the person or picking up the phone and calling a person. It's such a limiting thing. Like if you're like, I don't really feel like texting that person because I'm scared they might say no, or what happens if it leads to an uncomfortable conversation?
100%.
So you don't do it. And I found myself, again, getting personal. Like I've been there and I walk into the office sometimes and like we'll get going and I'll be like, I'm going to text this person right now because I'm on fire.
Yep.
Right. But if I wasn't in that spot.
Hyped up, you get people to encourage you. Man. I mean, listen, there was probably at one point where, and I know we joke about this stuff in the office. You walked up, you didn't know Carly. You walked up and you spoke to her, and however many years later,
I told her I was looking for her for 3 years.
That's what I mean. But the unknown, you don't go up and say hi to her. How different is your life?
I mean, I shot my wife a DM from the lifeguard stand. And
I met my wife at a job interview. I was hurt in between surf lessons and had to suck myself up and go, oh, I gotta get a job for the holidays to pay the bills. And I walked in and met her.
Yeah, like, but those choices
Yeah.
lead you places, and if you don't take the chance, you know,
100%.
Take the
it's like
chance.
make the decision and then live with the
Staying with it,
consequences,
yeah.
and just try to make the best of it. And if you continue to do that, you know, I look back over 30 years now, and it's just like,
Fortune favors
how'd
the
I
bold.
get here?
Yeah.
You know, like,
and I think that there's that thing when they say, you know, walk over it, you know, draw that line in the sand. And once you step over it, you have to be willing to not look back. Take that first step and don't look back and second guess yourself. What happens is going to happen. It's going to happen anyway. But it you know, I literally just had this conversation with a friend. He's like, oh, I should have stayed at that job. Look, they just bought this company. I would have been running all this. I'm like, dude, at the time you called me, you drew the line in the sand. I said, step across it.
Yeah.
Don't look back. Are you stoked? Yeah, I'm stoked. You're looking back right now. Yeah, but
That's not your path.
it's not the path.
yeah, it's
right?
not your
Like,
path.
and if it's like you said it a long time ago, you know, I don't even know how long we've been talking about when you said it. If you're not all in, if you're not dumping in, if you're just testing in the waters with your toe, you're just never going to get the result you want. You're always going to be a fractionally accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish. All in. It's really funny because in business, I think it's a lot harder to say it's yes or no. But like if you look at it through the lens of like, and I know we can curse here, it's like fuck yeah or fuck no. Like it's really affirmative statement.
Yeah.
And if you look at it through those, we're going to do this. This is a strategy. If it does not align with fuck yeah, then we can't do it.
No.
Well, what about it's saying we're only selling red houses? This house is blue. It doesn't matter what you're going to do. We only sell black houses.
Yeah.
You're right. And then you let that go and you move on to that. And it's just like, that's really hard to like, it's just as a human being, it's really hard to make decisions, you know, with affirmation, you know, like I'm staying firm on this. Hey, this is what I'm willing to pay for the house. I'm not going to pay anything more. And then when you're on that phone, hey man, he just said best and final is 4.7. I bet we can get to 4.9. Like, do you make that call? Do you do, you know, but that's part of like, but that's why you love what you do. The art of the deal, like closing and
the chase.
It's
You
just
get
like
a rush from it.
And a lot of
sales
times-
is a rush. Like, and it's like, but it feels so good. But like, at the end of the day, like that person's going to say, fuck yeah, I'm going to pay more or I'm not. And it's like, you can't change that decision. So when you lead with those two types of affirmations, and, you know, our co-founder said it to me about a year ago, he's like, listen, this is the strategy. You set the strategy. Why are you calling me and second guessing this? It doesn't align to the strategy. So you may chase this. It's gonna take you off of the other 5 things that we're trying to work on. So it's F no, put it aside. And it's just like, that's been like the biggest change for me. I think I've had probably the most growth in my business life in the last 6 months. But I realized the reason that I did have that growth is because I started to do something else through a different lens, expecting a different outcome, and completely discovered something else, which is super cool. And now, like, I'm excited for my next quarterly review because I feel like as a leader, when my CEO does my review now, like I can clearly go into that, you know, when you fill out that paperwork, I'm usually like, hit my numbers, did this. It's like, no, work better cross-functionally, develop bigger relationships, close this deal because I brought in and you develop as a leader. And like, for me, like, I'm super excited for that. Where I used to dread my reviews because I'm like, dude, I'm killing it. He knows I'm killing it. What are we going to talk about? This is like
A waste of your time kind of thing.
Just like, I'm just going to fill this paperwork out to fill it out and get it off my desk so he can get his review. And like my last 2 reviews like have not been great because he's like, dude, you pissed this person off. You did this. Like, I'm like, really? God, they don't have thick skin. Well, I'm from New Jersey. I just kind of say what I'm thinking. And you guys all know what that means. You know, like, dude, you got to be a little softer toner sometimes. You got to remember, like, you may be an alpha dog, but like, there's still like junior people that are just starting their first job. Like, you cannot just say like shit or get off the pot in a meeting and then walk out.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you're right. That was a bit aggressive, but that was fun. Like, that was
Short
fun.
meeting, man. Straight to the point.
It's just like, keep it moving. And it's like, I've really started to like, you know what? I've definitely been a keep it moving kind of person. Like, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to keep it casual. It doesn't have to be moving fast. It's like, just keep it moving. And it's been a lot more rewarding. And I think that coming here and talking about all the things in this reflection, it's like, it's been really rewarding just trying to be more cognizant of like my teammates and more cognizant of the outcome.
Everybody works differently. Everybody has different personalities.
Totally.
You know, I mean, you know, you could come in and tell me shit to get off the pot and it might work for me. You walk in and tell it to Nick, he might be like, man, this is just, I'm completely discouraged. And it's just the approach for different, not us specifically, but different people and being a leader and knowing how to manage personalities.
All right, how to reach you, how to reach me.
I think
motivate everybody differently.
It's just like a muscle. You just got to keep working at it. And I think, you know, the future of leadership, you know, as we probably wrap this thing up, it's just like, I think the best leaders are always usually the dumbest person in the room at the time because you're working with your team. Willing to make mistakes. I think that's something that I definitely have had to learn, that like it's okay to make a lot more mistakes, but learning from them, developing, leaning on your team. And it's like some of those mistakes, like, hey man, you guys really missed this goal, you know, and it's like you instantly when like, well, it's because of this person. It's like now it's just been like, you know what? We missed it. We didn't do it. You know, like, yeah, man, call that guy up. Nope. Wholesale stops with me. It's on me. I got it. You know, I'm going to take this. And it's hard. I think business has gotten trickier. The times, you know, like always going to an election year or interest rates. There's just so many variables you can't control. So I think that if, you know, you can just be compassionate, be super in tune with your team and the process and your strategy. You really can't go wrong, because the mistakes that you make, it's just like, you're going to pick me up. You're going to pick me up. Someone's going to pick me up. You know, someone has to fall on the sword sometimes, but like when the team wins, everybody wins. And I think that's one thing that's really starting to develop in that small business, is that the team atmosphere. I think when a lot of people say businesses are family, I definitely think like, oh, we're part of the same family. No, I think team is the better word. You know, like family is a little too close to the heart. I used to always say it's great being here. It's like a big family. No, it should be more like a team. And I think that that's one thing that, as the times have changed, that you're starting to see a lot more team type of analogies as opposed to family analogies, as family's gotten a lot more diverse and things have gotten a little different. So I think that that is one thing, you know, that's really changing, is that from a family to a team type mentality. And then lastly, like, it's just, there's nothing like winning with others. I mean, celebrating those individual wins is really awesome. And that, like, surfing, winning individually was incredible, but it doesn't mean anything, you know, with celebrating with your family and your teammates. Like, that's so much better now, that in hindsight, just, you know, I wish, you know, I could talk to myself back in those days where it's just like, I was just not operating at the level that hindsight gives you. You know, so that's kind of like where I've gotten to in the business world, is just being really content with trying to build a great team. I'm a sales guy, so always trying to sell a great product, and just like being resilient, just never taking, you know, on to the next deal, keep that pipeline full. I think that that's one thing that, you know, trying to keep a lot of deals going, because you never know what sector is going to be taking off, or what is it, commercial, is it individual, is it the beach, is it offshore, is it single family, is it multi-unit? Like, there's just so many variables. Why, if you're not selling all of it, you know, and I'm not saying like whether it's multi-unit or single family, and I keep using the real estate because I'm here, but like, it's that diversity of the same type of a thing that you can do. If you can keep all that going, it's going to lead to longevity, because it's just like, as things are changing or going up, or inventory is changing, you're always looking at the next thing, you know, whether it's development. And I think that's why people diversify, you know, they add mortgages, they add title, they do development, they do everything. It's because the and of your business is like super important. You can't just be real estate.
And people sometimes look at that negatively, right? You always hear like a jack of all trade, master of none. But I think you can be a jack of all trade and be really good at a lot of the things that you're getting into.
Especially if you're a leader, because you're facilitating. I may be the jack, but you're the master of this. You're the master of that. He's the master of that. They're the master of this. This is the leasing guy. This is the closing guy. This is our title guy. This is our mortgage broker. This is our insurance guy. But you're the conduit that holds it all together.
Right, you're surrounding yourself with the
big dot connectors.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that I think that like people really need to market is, yes, we are a one-stop shop, but we are experts at every step of the way. I'm just the face. The team, the foundation, the steps, the departments, that's the leaders. That's why we're so good. And I think that in your world, you know, speaking externally, I never see enough about like why the agency is so good because of all the branches and the leaders. It's always about come to us, we'll get the deal closed, you know, da 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 da. It's never like this team operates at a level where we can help you at every stage of this. Like there's ways to say it, but like how do you do that quickly? How do you capture that person and make sure that, you know, if they're looking for a realtor, oh, I see that sign. Like, you know, I see that. And I think that
there's brand recognition and what that means. It's not just we win. There's a reason why we win.
Exactly.
And you gotta kind of capture
that's really cool because then I see yours, because I don't come down here very often from Ocean City, but when I'm in Cape May, I see your sign everywhere. So I'm like, it's actually, those guys are on it. Every house has that logo in this small town. And it's like, those guys are like, so instantly I'm like, that's who you would call.
Yeah, and it's starting to happen. It's starting to happen in the Wildwoods, and it's starting to happen over here. We're like really starting to take the market, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's neat to see it.
Yeah. So this is the part where you plug yourself, your brands.
Yeah.
So if people are looking to find you, right, with the underwear company, where can they find you?
Yeah, beneath bn3th.com that's kind of the brand. But you know, the simple way to find me is I went to Japan when I was 18 years old. I was called Keenzo because they couldn't say Keenan, and it's just like everyone calls me Keenzo. You know, Matt, whatever, and it's just KEENZO, the number 0.
It's like Kenzo, with
like the Kenzo
A.
brand. Just my name, you know, or just Matt Keenan 1010 at iCloud. Super easy. October 10th.
And then,
or, you know, you can check me out. I just really started MattKeenanSpeaks.com, and that's kind of like my platform, you know, where you can kind of see what I do, but keynote speaking, mentoring, but it's all about, you know, creating that flow state and how we can help you both personally and professionally. And that's just kind of like a passion project that, you know, who knows, when I retire, that could be my full-time job. I'm trying to set myself for the long term.
Yeah, there you
A
go.
year from now, we'll be able to say we got you before Hermes did.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Well, Matt, I have 2 people that I always reach out to when I'm like, you know, I need somebody to pick me up or need some like positivity. One's a really good friend. He created his own company and concept. Another guy's just a guy I've known forever. He was a teacher and he's just super motivating. But they always are the ones that kind of get me going. So I'm going to add Matt Keenan into that
Appreciate
group
that.
if that's all right.
Yeah, man, for
Get
sure.
your number before we go.
For sure.
Just for those like little like uplift me up
you know
kind
what's
of things.
crazy?
You need him.
Speaking like full circle here, I was at my parents' house in Ocean City about 2 weeks ago, and I'm cleaning out my closet. I have a Matt Keenan signed poster when he rode for ergophobia, and I might have got it from, I don't even know, I might have been 12. And I was like, now like today I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wow, it's so full circle, like friends with the guy who used to sign my poster.
Network, man.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
Power of your network. There's always an answer, and I think that like your network that you build, it's just, you never realize how powerful it is until you need people or you need things. It's like, because you have so many names in that phone, just think about it. Like, you could probably answer a lot of questions, you know,
easily.
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
In 2007, that's when I got licensed. And Todd DeSatnik, you know, told me, you took the test, so you know the rules, but you're only going to be successful in this business by building relationships. And whether you call it network or, you know, relationship, whatever it is, that's what kind of keeps you going.
And post-COVID, it's the most important. People just want to work with people they like. So if you're on that
Life's
short
too
list,
short.
you got to figure that out, how to get on the list.
For sure.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Coming in.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.